Aloha, everyone. This is episode 5 of the Kailua Town Magazine podcast, brought to you by Windward Jewelers, located next to Morning Brew, 600 Kailua Road. Mahalo, Windward Jewelers. Aloha, everyone. I'm Rebecca Cummings, publisher of the Kailua Town Magazine, and I am so excited to be here with Richard Drake. I know him as someone who takes beautiful, beautiful photos. Most of them are of Kailua, but just of Hawaii in general. He has an incredible story, and I just can't wait to talk to you a little bit about it. So Richard, thank you so much for being here. This is really, really exciting.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
And so we were talking a little bit before, but we are actually, your home is on a property that your mom purchased.
Yeah, in 1939, my mom originally came here from Oregon, and the whole deal was, to get a piece of land in Hawaii was a big deal. Yeah. And for $5,000, and that includes house and lot, we're here off Kainalu Drive, and I've been able to keep it in the family for all these years, which have been fantastic.
That's
of course,
amazing.
The family house meant a lot to me because I was raised there. So as soon as I got it, I bulldozed it to the ground and built a new house.
Super sentimental.
Super sentimental. Yeah. And this is the new house.
Okay. No, it's gorgeous. Have you ever, just out of curiosity, gone on to see what $5,000 equals in today's market?
No, I haven't. But I did know that my mom did have to borrow money from her parents to buy the lot. So it puts everything into perspective.
Yeah. What did she do when she was...
Originally, my mom came to Hawaii and was a teacher at Punahou. She was an art teacher. And of course, art in our family was almost like religion, So I grew up, with Cézanne and Renoir and Gauguin, and I was always kind of like a big thing, And unfortunately, my mom was kind of opinionated. Like if somebody had a really gaudy shirt on, she was like, that was a terrible person because they didn't have good aesthetic taste. And then my dad, he came from Chicago and arrived here after the war, during the war.
Oh, wow.
And he had a pretty wild time. He was a welder at Pearl Harbor after the attack, and he told some pretty horrific stories about people going down in the ships and bringing all the pieces and everything. There was a thing called bunker fuel in there, and beans, and it was pretty horrific. But he came to Hawaii, and together they met. My dad had a jazz show on KGU, and my mom wrote him a letter saying, "Hey, you play really good music," and the next thing you know, I was on the scene.
Wow, that's like kind of Match.com, Facebook of the... So when were you born?
I was born November 30th, 1954. It's a cold, rainy night. Maxine Drake realizes that time in her life has come. Her husband rushes her to Kapiolani Hospital, where in room 114 she gives birth to an 8.5-pound baby boy.
Wow, we got the whole thing. My birthday is November 27th, actually, so we're... close, not in years, but in days. Okay, so I'm just going to explain how I was introduced to Richard and then we can go down your whole story. But COVID 2020, I'm putting a magazine together and everything shuts down halfway through. And I realize whoever was going to be on the cover decided it wasn't the correct time, which was the right decision. I had to fill half the pages. We had to change many of the ads to different messaging. And my neighbor is a longtime Kailua guy. He was Hawaii Fire Department, He goes, "Hey, you should Richard Drake, he's got great stuff, blah, blah, blah." I'd never heard of you. I'm not like actively looking for photographers and artists, but so I'm looking on Facebook. And again, it's early April of 2020. Things are completely shut down. So I reach out to Richard, I send you a message, and you respond right away. It was in the morning. And you said, "Hey, I'm just gonna power wash my deck. Give me a call in 30 minutes. Okay, So I call you and you say, "Rebecca, how are you? What can I do for you?" And I said, "Who is this?" And so I explained my situation. I said, "I need a cover shot. I have $0 to pay." You said, "I don't want money from you. Use whatever you want." And I mean, you charge money for your photography, which you should do. But for 2020, the 2 cover issues were Richard Drake's photos. And I was so grateful because it was beautiful. I didn't have to get a business to be on the cover in that weird time. And it worked out. It worked out perfectly. So I just want to say thank you.
My pleasure.
Because it made things real easy in a time when things were not so easy.
Well, I love the exposure too. That was really wonderful. And everybody says, "Oh, I saw your picture on there," and they always show me your magazine, going, "Look, is this you?" I say, "Yeah, that's my stuff."
That's awesome. Yeah. So let's talk about there are many, many, many stories, but how you have where did you go to high school?
Went to Kailua Elementary, Kailua Intermediate, Kailua High School. A Kailua boy.
So born in town. Was Castle even here at that time?
No, Castle Hospital wasn't even here.
So born in town, Kailua.
Yeah.
Born and raised, raised. That's awesome. Okay, and so you graduate from high school.
I graduated from high school. At that time, I was working out at the Marine base. I've had a million jobs in Kailua, starting out putting bicycles together at Economy Cyclery when I was 10 years old, then working at Craig's Bakery, which was a standard, washing dishes, and then working at a TV repair place. But there was a job in high school where you could actually work on the Marine base. It was called NOSC, Naval Ocean Systems Center, where they trained dolphins to do underwater work. But I worked on the side which worked on a remote undersea work system that went to 20,000 feet. And being a kid in high school, working out on the base, riding my motorcycle, it was just like, it was a really cool deal. But then I had another friend of mine, Terry Vanderbilt. He said, we were diving buddies. I was a big diver, still love diving. And he said, we're going to need some more help down at the Neil Blaisdell Center. I'll see if I can get you on this thing. And when I got down there, I didn't realize it, but it was the Rolling Stones. And here I am on the side of the stage with Bianca Jagger. And this is like...
How old are you?
By this time, I'm just about 19 and a half.
Okay.
And I was like, this is so cool. I want to do this the rest of my life. Oh my God. And so then it started me in my career. I always wanted to be a marine biologist and do something like that, but it started me in my career in show business. And so I did rock and roll for a few years. And the whole thing about doing rock and roll in those days is you had to get in the union. And that's where I became a member of the IATSEMOSP Local 665, the International Alliance of Theatrical Stagehands and Lightmen of the United States and Canada, and MOSP, and Motion Picture Operators. And so I started doing rock and roll for a few years, and that was great. And then there was a chance to work on a Waikiki extravaganza, like a big Vegas type show called Paradise Found, where the volcano opens up and the dry ice goes into the audience. It looks like lava, and all the old ladies with the blue hair, "Oh, Martha, this is unbelievable." And the boys come out with the malo on, and it was a big show. Anyway, so I had boats that went across, had a plane that flew through the air, and all these special effects. In those days, it was the 70s, and people weren't always showing up on time, so to say, but I was always there on time. And so soon I became head stage carpenter of the whole show. And I wasn't even in the union yet.
When you were working on these shows, what does that mean when you say working on the shows? What were you doing?
Well, on like at Paradise Found, the walls had to go open, and we would actually push the walls manually. And we had a boat that came across stage, and they were underneath, and there were cables and everything. And when the plane threw, there was a big drum we cranked, and the plane used to fly through. So we're actually doing mechanical effects, but it was a lot of manual labor, so to say.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And then when that show ended, I was so depressed. It was my big chance. I was doing well, and there was an old lady there. Well, not an old lady. She had with a cigarette in her mouth, Beth. And I said, "Beth, the show's ending," and she's like really depressed. And I was like so depressed. And I said, "What are we gonna do?" And she, "Did you have a job before this?" I said, "Yeah." "You'll have a job after this." And that morning, the next day, I wore a palaka shirt, Brada style, went down to Hawaii 5-0 and said, "Hey, is there a chance that I may get some work?" He said, "Got a union card?" And by that time, I'd got my union card. And I said, "Yeah, I got my union card." I said, "Well, maybe we'll give you a call." I said, "Well, I'll never get a call." And 5:30 the next morning, "Can you be here in a half hour?" I said, "Yeah." And 50 years later, I've been working steady ever since. Every major movie, Hunger Games, Waterworld, all the stuff that was shot in Hawaii, Joe versus the volcano. I eventually became a department head.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, because I don't know, I have no idea, this is not my world. On these sets, what's your job? What's your role?
Originally I started out as a set dresser. Set dressers, the pyramid goes like this, the art, and I've always been in the art department too. So of course I did grip and electric, which is setting up lights and doing shading the light and everything. But in the art department, you've got a production designer, an art director, and then a set decorator, and then you have the swing gang, you got the prop guys and everything. Well, the set decorator is a guy who comes in and interprets a script and says, hey, well, it should have this kind of stuff. It could be this is like a druggie's house, or this is a opulent, rich person's house. And they interpret the script and dress the room accordingly. And I was the other guy, as a kid starting out, I was the other guy on the other side of a couch, carrying a couch in and out and stuff like that. So then I did set dressing for years. And then I started getting into props. And as props, I used to hold the cue cards for Jack Lord. And he used to call me Lad all the time. And working for Jack Lord was quite a trip. He was pretty demanding. We used to call it doing the Lord's work.
Nice.
It'll
get you to heaven.
Yeah, I know. So then after that, I started doing props, and I started working a lot on national commercials, all the C&H sugar commercials, which then I started getting a lot of responsibility for getting the horses and building sets. And so then they would always bring a mainland art director, but I was the kind of guy who made everything happen here, more like an art director here. A production designer would come here. And so I did commercials for years, and then I've always, of course, going back and working on the movies too that would come in as usually set dressing or props, and TV series that would come in, Rockford Files and Charlie's Angels when they came to town. I would be their local guy, their prop guy, kind of because I knew where everything was. I would be their go-to guy to get everything for them. And then eventually, after doing all that for years, I started working with Japanese commercials for Japan, and they were the ultimate. As the pyramid kind of works out like this, you have conventions, we got rock and roll theater. Of course, I did opera too. My early days when I was doing my rock and roll stuff, I started building operas. And so we built all the sets for the operas, which was really fun. And I got my love of opera too, because you'd work the show and all that. Doing a live performance is always something, working in the Fly Gallery, watching all the scenes, because it's live. And if something happens, you got to make it happen no matter what. That was really interesting. So moving on to that, after I did operas and all the stage stuff, I moved on to doing Japanese commercials for Japan. And the pyramid kind of works like this. You have rock and roll down here, theater down here. You have the conventions, which pay very well, building the sets and doing stuff for conventions. Then you've got the episodic television, which was really a moneymaker and a big thing for all of Hawaii's industry. Then on the top of that, you have feature films. Feature films would come in, you work 4 or 5 months on a shoot, it would be great. And then above that, we had national commercials, and national commercials were always big moneymakers. And they would spend $2 or $3 million. I did this one for Matilda Bay wine coolers. I had planes landing in the Wailua River, a giant floating village. And what happened? It looked too tropical. And so $3 million, just forget it. And that was when $3 million was $3 million.
Right, yeah.
So then after that, we moved on, after national commercials, then the cream of the crop for me, I'm sure everybody has their thing, was Japanese commercials for Japan. Super loyal clients. And like Java Curry, I did that for 20 years. Every year they came back with a commercial. Like this bike behind us here, the bike that goes both ways, that was built for Java Curry. And they were just super loyal and very crazy projects and crazy designs.
Interesting. Yeah. So this spans 50 years now, right? Yeah. You said you just got your 50-year card from the union,
right?
And you're number 2.
Number 2 in union seniority.
And who is number 1?
Mel Pang, who was at one time my PE teacher at Kailua Intermediate, I think.
So funny.
Yeah.
So across 50 years, I know you just talked about the Japanese commercials. Do you have stories or sets that just you remember as really good or really not good, or just stories that are that have a special place in your memory?
We've all talked about, we've all worked with everybody from Hunger Games and all the stars, but one of the stars I worked with, and this was on an IBM convention when I first started in the industry, was Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh, wow.
Every day he did this show for IBM, used to bring in these big stars for their conventions. And I would sit backstage with him, and he was the coolest cat, man. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu. And every day he used to drink strawberry orange crush just before he went on. And I was like, "What's up with that, Mr. Davis?" He said, "You know, man, you got to keep the pipes pink when you start singing to the audience, man." And he was just like, that was really cool. And of course, I've worked with a lot of stars. And the Hunger Games, I was the Marine coordinator on Hunger Games, which I jumped in and did. And of course, Marine Corps, me loving the ocean and being a boat guy, I did a lot of Marine coordination too. One of the deals I did was, I built the ship for the movie The Tempest, which was a brigantine ship. And at first they said, we need the ship to rock back and forth and do a giant storm scene. Yeah. And so I said, okay, what we'll do is we'll go to the dry dock out in Eva, and we'll put it in the dry dock, and we can have our wind machines and everything, and we'll do it in the dry dock, but we'll actually float it on the water. Okay. And I was gonna use a boat. And then about halfway through it, they said, we're shooting in Hilo. We want the whole thing to go to Hilo. Okay, so we took it all apart, put it in containers, shipped it to Hilo, and did it in the river right outside of Hilo. And what they did was, the effects guys, they didn't like me really building this ship that's supposed to rock back and forth. And all our ship has giant PVC tubes underneath it, big ones, that kept the ship so it would rock back and forth. And the brigantine ship was on top of it, wood grain and mast and all this stuff. So we were actually rocking it manually, and it looked terrific. So the effects guys decided to kind of they said, you know what? When we're through with you, the whole shoot will be in the bar having drinks before this. And I was like, oh man, this is a little scary. And so what they did was instead of putting 200 gallons of water, they put in like 600 gallons of water, and they were using a front end loader with a big steel box they made, and it came down a sluice, and it went over the top of the ship. And thank God the ship was pretty well made, and it heeled over, and Brian Kailua and they were our water safety guys on that, and they grabbed the stars and held them while this giant wave inundated the boat, and then the boat popped up, and I was like, oh, we're not at the bar drinking, and we made it. So that was a little interdepartmental jealousy there, and they tried to send me to the bottom of the river, but we didn't do it. We saved ourselves.
Good job. That's wonderful. High quality.
I hope.
That's so interesting.
Talk about high quality. That's one thing I must admit I've done in my career, is surround yourself with the very best people. Some people are like, oh, brother, you don't get that job, bro. That guy's going to try to take your job. And I didn't care about that. I always tried to get the very best technicians, and I worked with guys like, Craig Lewis, Brian Vollert, Bruce Vollert, and Kelly Westmiller. And these people all, they backed me up, and they were really great craftsmen, great riggers. And so surround yourself with the best has been my success, because nobody's good at everything, right? But if you can lead your troops into battle, that was the key. That's
great advice. So you were just talking about boats. Did you do anything with pirates?
No, I didn't. I was too busy making commercials.
That's fine. I was just curious.
Exactly. But a lot of my friends worked on it, and a lot of guys I worked on it with. And then you see guys in your career, like one of the guys I worked with early on when I was in Arizona doing a movie called The Lightning Field, Steve Joyner. He's gone on to work with Quentin Tarantino. Wow. So guys that you've started in the career, you've seen them do really well. That's
cool. So, because this just happened, I don't want to get too political, but what are your thoughts about the bill that did not pass that's really affecting the industry?
All movies are, fortunately or unfortunately, the movies follow the tax credit. The tax credit is where everything goes. That's why Georgia has so many great shoots there, and it's a money game. Yeah. And being that the film industry in Hawaii I mean, we've got so many different looks here. You have the tropical look. You can be shooting up in Kamuela, where we've made it look like Ireland. You've got Kualoa Ranch, which is basically a movie back lot where we've shot so much stuff. It's been the industry is really done well with the tax credit, and there is still a tax credit in place, but it isn't quite enough to do it. Unfortunately, this is a really unusual time in the whole industry. I think we're noticing some big changes. There's still some big movies, but you don't see commercials like big national commercials anymore. Everything is the internet, like what we're doing.
Right.
And so the business is changing. Right now, the business is as slow as it's ever been. And that's why I'm glad I'm taking photos and not in the industry anymore. And that's why I'm glad my son wants to become a doctor and not get in the industry. I'll tell you that.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay, I was just curious as you were talking about that. So how did you get into photography? What was your first intro?
It's really funny. I've always been one of those guys who've always had a camera with them. My dad always had a camera. And so my friends, I've talked to a few of my friends and said, Drake, on all of our hiking trips and everything, you always had a camera, and I've always liked it. And I think it's a way of me expressing myself artistically. I know my photos are they're a little bit, people say, the color's so vivid and this, that. Yeah, I tweak stuff. And people say, is that legal? Are you okay to do that? I said, well, Ansel Adams used to do a thing called dodging. So I think all's fair in love and art. Yeah. So, I sharpen things up, and I vignette them so that it gets a little softer on the outside. And so what was the question, doctor?
How did you get into photography to start with?
Okay, yeah. Joe Carini had a little camera, and it was like a little Samsung camera, but it had all these little features on it. And so I got one, and I started shooting, and I started posting. First, I started posting old stuff of old buildings and stuff, and old Hawaii, which was people kind of followed and liked that.
What year about was this when you started posting?
9 years ago, 8 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, not much. And so then with this camera, I started shooting stuff, and I put it on Facebook, and people was like, wow, I like it. And I said, well, I better get myself a real camera. And so I started getting some equipment, and the wife at the time was like, are you sure you're spending all that money on a camera? I said, yeah, it's okay. And I'm glad I did. So I started shooting stuff, and every morning, I would get up and ride my bike. I live very close to the beach. Ride my bike to the beach and shoot a sunrise. And as we all know, there's only 2 times to shoot a picture: in the morning or the afternoon. And so
now everyone knows.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd go down there, and I think the real key to shooting a picture is just get up and just go when you see the sun coming up. And in those days, I'd get up. I wouldn't drink coffee. I wouldn't brush my teeth. I didn't comb my hair. I just got up, threw on a t-shirt, and went to the beach. And there I was at the beach. And invariably in the old days, somebody would always come up to you with their iPhone and go, see, I took this sunset picture, but you're trying to shoot a shot. But when you're on the beach there and you just got a t-shirt on and no pants, they don't say a goddamn thing. I'll tell you that right now. No, I wore pants. Anyway, so I started shooting this stuff, and interesting that you should mention that. Now, I'm not a woo-woo guy. I don't believe in much, but I did notice that a lot of the pictures I took when I didn't have my shoes on, and your feet are in the sand, and I don't know if it's you're walking slower, you're looking where you're going, but why my pictures always came out better without shoes
grounding.
on. I know that's what we all heard about, grounding, and I really think it makes a difference when you ground yourself and you find yourself in a quiet moment. And at first I thought, I'll take some music and try to listen to music on the beach in the morning, and no, that just distracts you. Yeah. And there's something about, I used to do location photos with a friend of mine, and there was always getting the shot. Did I get the shot? And so you'll spend some time, maybe framing something. You'll always want to put something in the foreground to make it interesting, so that you're just not a giant wide shot. And for the internet, I have a lot of clients. Of course, I do landscape stuff But for the internet, when you want to get those people while looking at your pictures, you shoot everything vertical, more of a portrait style, so that when people see it on their phone, it fits their phone better. And so we're selling soap here. We gotta get those likes out there, and we gotta get people to look at your stuff every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when did you realize? When did you start to get a major following? Because when you post something on Facebook, you have a lot of followers, and they like your things. It's a lot of likes, which is awesome. But when did that start happening, and when did you think, I could sell these?
Yeah.
You know, I could do something with this.
Probably about 3 or 4 years in doing it. I was still working in the movie industry. And in the movie industry, you have to imagine that they take you to the most beautiful spots every morning or afternoon. You know, so I would take my camera along, and then after the shoot, I would grab some stuff. Wherever I'd go, I'd always keep my camera, and I'd grab some stuff, and I'd put it out there. And I started working with Print Logic up here in Kailua. They started printing my stuff, and then Martin and MacArthur approached me, and I said they were interested in my stuff. So here I've got my stuff in Ala Moana Shopping Center, and people are buying my stuff. And then of course I went through other galleries, and they started buying my stuff. But it's interesting, most of the people that buy my stuff are all are expats from Hawaii. I had a big show in Hollywood on the corner of Highland and Sunset with my own billboard at AC Gallery. And it was incredible, but there were hundreds of people there. But where were they all from? They were all from Hawaii. Yeah. They came from San Diego, they came from LA, and it was almost like a Kailua high school reunion. And a lot of the expats who moved away from Hawaii, they love to see my sunrise every day because it brings them home, and they feel like, and they have so many things we all identify with.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's really cool. Okay. So now, today, are you going to the beach every day, or are you taking photos actively, or?
I am taking photos actively, but I find myself, I've got a ton of sunrises and moonrises. So I find myself shooting a little more people. Like just the other day, I was in Chinatown in the morning, and just shooting the fruit stand in Chinatown with all the papayas there. And I noticed a lot of people responded to it. Oh, I just love to have a papaya, just like that. And so I'm trying to, I like to mix it up, and people are hiring me. I'm not a wedding photographer, and if you hire me to shoot portraits of you, I'm going to shoot something a little more artsy. I'm going to shoot something a little more, I don't hate it, but just the picture of everybody, hi, and the shaka, which just kills every photo because everybody always is, and you're like, whoa. I like to catch people when they're not really looking at the camera, that natural stuff that you think, you capture the moment. That's why a lot of my beach photos, you'll notice that there's nobody in the photo. I want you to feel like you're the only person there, and
sometimes
the beach
there's someone way out in the water.
Yeah, that's okay.
Out there.
I like that.
But no, that's fine.
They'll identify with them though.
You can still be there.
Yeah, but and of course, I did a lot of paddling stuff, and people all identify with that. The lone paddler going out early in the morning. People like that.
That's cool. Fun. Interesting. So, do you have now? I mean, you're 50 years into the industry. You could really retire if you wanted. I think. Are you semi-retired, or you?
I'm semi-retired from the industry. Yeah. But I am full-time taking pictures. Good. But to be honest with you, I've taken a little more time for my health. Yeah. And a few years ago, I've always loved riding a bike. A few years ago, I started riding my bike and eating a little more sensible, and I'm not on the set with the craft service table there. Yeah. And I've lost close to 70 pounds.
Yeah. You were much slimmer than you were when I met you.
Exactly. And so at this time in my life, it's like, hey, do a little stuff for yourself. You don't have to do something for somebody else. The kid's growing up, he's living on his own, and so it's a little bit of my time now. So I take pictures for friends, for if they like a wedding or something. I'd love to do that for friends, and but I don't want the pressure of a giant wedding where I don't know people there or something. But I do love just doing portraits of people I know, and it's just a nice life of just doing whatever you want. Imagine waking up in the morning and doing whatever you want. Oh my God, I love it.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
So you were born in
54.
54. So, and you've been in Kailua, you've lived here the whole time. Did you
Pretty
ever
much,
move away?
traveled a
Sure.
lot, after school, Mexico City, and
nice.
and then, a lot, of course, you'd go away and I did movies in Arizona and
Yeah.
work, but most of the time here in Hawaii. And the reason why I kind of concentrated about staying in Hawaii is because I'd work with these directors, and the big thing for the director would be, I got to come to Hawaii for 2 weeks during the summer and with my family, and it's just absolutely fantastic. And I'm like, wait a minute, I can make a living here and live in Hawaii. And so I decided to really try to build my career in Hawaii, and everybody wanted the go-to guy in Hawaii, and I was that for many years.
That's very cool. So my question really is, what's your experience? Because Kailua has changed in many ways.
Yeah.
In many ways, it's still the same, but you can speak to that a little bit more. But what are your thoughts about kind of the evolution that Kailua has seen over the last however many decades?
Exactly.
We're just not gonna
Exactly. The last 200 years. I have seen Kailua change, but it's still the same. When I'm on the beach at 5 in the morning or 2 in the morning, that's the way it looks in 1920.
Yeah.
And the pictures I take without anybody in them, it does look like 1920. And it's I don't think Kailua's changed. You have to remember, Kailua smells a little different because it used to be campus dairy. And when Kona wind used to blow, Kailua used to smell like kukai. Okay. But there have been a few changes, and the stores and everything. Traffic's a little heavy, but as you and I both well know, getting around Kailua on your bicycle is the only way. Yeah, I go shopping with my bike, and you don't stress out, and it's really it's nice.
Funny to like drive down go down Oneava or whatever, and just pass the cars that are at a standstill. It's kind of fun.
It is very fun. I like it.
But okay. I was just curious. And then
there's one phrase I like though.
Yeah.
Then about talking about old Kailua. You have the people that just came here, and say, listen, I want to keep it Kailua the way it was 2 years ago when I came, and then you just go, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people who are moving here?
Yeah. So many of my friends who grew up here, they'd like to move back, but they can't. And they say, well, I want to live on the beach in Kailua. And everybody's like, well, maybe you don't really can live on the beach anymore, but you can live off the beach. And I just think, be a little realistic too. If anybody buying a house in Hawaii, your first house may not be in Kailua, but if you get in on the ground floor somewhere, just get some real estate and start, fix it up a little bit, sell it and move on, you can get to where you want to be in Hawaii. It's still possible, but don't try. And the great thing about Oahu is you have the military here who always supports rents. Right. And so by subsidizing the rents, you can't go wrong with real estate on Oahu and anywhere you are on the island.
You sound like my real estate.
Have I got a deal for you? Now there you go.
Off camera. And then I was just, as you were talking, because it sounds like you kind of got into the industry just based on one kind of random job. Your friend said he could have you working at the Blaisdell, and you didn't know it was for the Rolling Stones. But if you were to, looking back, give your high school self some advice about life or career or anything, what would you tell him?
As you know, I just really think life is what happens to you while you're making other plans. But one thing I do notice that people will come up to me and go, hey, I want to get in the film industry. I want to do something in the industry. And I did a lot of special effects in my day. I did a lot of rain scenes, a lot of mechanical effects, everything. And of course, carpentry. And it's like, I ask them, well, are you a good welder? No. Are you a good carpenter? No. Are you a good scene painter or painter? No. Well, it's best to have, if you come into the industry with some skills, it's really going to help you to climb the ladder fast. And because you've got something to do, especially in the art department, we're always looking for somebody who can weld. And I became a welder because I had to, you know, to figure stuff out. And so I would say come into the industry with skills and you'll climb the ladder fast.
Okay. Interesting. Sounds like you could have had a backup career if needed.
Yeah.
If you know went.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. What do you want people to really know about you?
What do that I am? I'm a guy who really appreciates all of the support that you guys give me with my Facebook likes and all the support you give me with, you know, buying my art and everything. Imagine being able to wake up in the morning and go and do something that you like, and you don't have a boss. I don't have a boss. I create something, and if you like it, you don't. But so many people support me. I'd like people to know how thankful I am to them and for their support, and how they're on the journey with me every morning. They're on the morning, when you're with me in the morning there, it's you and me, because we're experiencing these things together, and you support me by buying my work. I think that's what I'd like people to know about me. And on the other half, I'm just a happy guy. I mean, life has been really, really good to me, and I just wake up like Santa Claus every day. I mean, because life is good, and yeah, we get things thrown at us, but it's all our attitude, you know. I think having a great attitude in life. If I could teach my son or anybody that, even in the film industry, you can be the best at what you do, but if you're a jerk, you're really not going to get the work. And if you have a great attitude, life is all attitude for me. That's what I think. At least it's been the best for me. Being the guy who's always smiling and always happy on the set. They're like, I want him back next year, and I don't want him back.
That's awesome. That's great advice. This is something I was thinking. Your parents, once you started to get really into, you know, the industry and doing well, what did they think? What was their takeaway or their thoughts?
My mom,
did they ever think you were a big deal?
No. Well, my mom always thought, you know, I think we're always concerned with our kids. Are you going to be all right? Yeah. And my mom was like, well, you're going to be okay. You're doing all right. You're doing all right. And my dad was impressed with my ability in the business. And, you know, I had the big house up in Wailaiki, and I was driving the Mercedes. And my dad was like, that's my boy. He's driving a Mercedes. And, you know, so he was pretty stoked on that. I think they appreciated that I survived, and that I was able to make a living and, you know, build a nice house for my family and have a great family life. So they were happy that I was successful.
And do you have brothers and sisters, or are you an only child?
I have one half brother, and I have two half sisters. Okay. Just torsos. They're just half sisters. Wow. No, they're real half sisters.
Okay. Are they around here?
Yeah.
Do they live here?
Two of my sisters live in Hawaii Kai, and my brother lives in Canada.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, cool. Just curious. So if people want to find you, they want to see your work, they want to order something, what's the best way?
You know, I am on Zenfolio.com, and Zenfolio will print, they'll ship, they'll do everything. But I really like having the interaction with my customers. Yeah. So I really like it when somebody just messages me on Facebook and says, hey, I want this for my house, I like that. And then you get to talk to them. And then, of course, we ship all over the world. Okay. And I work with Pictures Plus here. They're a terrific company who prints all my stuff. They package it up well. They do all the shipping and everything. So for me, it's just uploading stuff to them. Right. And they print it and they ship it for me. And I think you get the best bang for your buck when you do that. And I like the interpersonal relationship with a piece of my art going to somebody I know, going to their home and having my work in their home. That's like, especially a Kailua person or something, that's like, oh, brah, it makes me feel good.
You do, especially if you are hanging your work, or someone as having your work placed in their office or building your home, and they're local and you're able to go, you do photos of those experiences a lot. And personal experience, Richard will likely get back to you right away if you message him on Facebook, whether you're friends or not, because we were not friends on Facebook.
I will.
But we had, so okay, wonderful.
You can find my stuff now. There's a lot of stuff, my stuff, it winds up in doctor's offices.
Okay.
And there's a memory care place in Florida that bought a lot of my stuff. And they said that the people used to be agitated in this one room. And I had a lot of giant stuff I did for them. And it said it calmed everybody down.
Was it a lot of blues?
Yeah, a lot of blue stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So maybe my work has some therapeutic work.
Well, it can't hurt. It's not going to stress you out. That I can guarantee you. That's awesome. And the one thing I didn't mention at the beginning, but this podcast, this episode is brought to you by Windward Jewelers. Doug at Windward Jewelers, 600 Kailua Road next to Morning Brew is phenomenal. And Doug always uses, since COVID, actually, since I started using your photos on the cover,
Thank you.
Doug uses Richard's photos in his advertising. Yes, you're great. I think he owes you money.
He
said to mention that.
That's all good. It's always good to have people owe you money.
He said Richard's supposed to say Doug owes everyone money, which is
no way.
Which is not true.
No way.
Doug's wonderful, but Windward Jewelers is the best jewelry store. It's the only one here, but he's wonderful. So. Let's see. Well, this has been really fun. What are your plans for the rest of the day? Are you riding your bike? Have you already done that?
I'm riding my bike, a little trip to town, chase some new photography equipment. There's always new equipment coming out, and you always want, but something about new equipment and old equipment. I'm working with, I have a friend, Roy Kimura, who's a great director. I said, Roy, we're always talking about the best new camera gear and everything. And he said, Richard, it's not the gear. It's the person behind the lens. And so I'm always like looking for something new, but I think he might be right, It's, you can always get new stuff. Like my son, who is a camera fanatic now, I don't know where he got it from, but he thinks I'm a kind of a loser because he shoots film, and he's a hipster. He's a hipster that shoots film. And so, and everybody, now shooting film and compared to digital, everybody's like, the grain is there and everything. So I really think there might be something to just getting out and shooting. And I encourage everybody with their cell phones now. Everyone's got a cell phone. And I mean, iPhones take incredible pictures. So take the time to capture a little magic. Always put something in the foreground. That's all I can tell you.
Here's a question. Do you have to have a professional, because we all know, regardless of what version iPhone you have, the photo of the sunset at Lanikai that you take on your iPhone does not look like what the sunset looks like. Is there any way to fix that, or do you just really need a high quality camera that's going to capture?
I think your iPhone, you can take anything into Photoshop from the iPhone and tweak it any way you want. Don't tie your hands and say, hey, this is it. Be creative. It can be, or a sunrise, you can turn it black and white. Just be creative with stuff. Don't try to shoot everything everybody else has. Try to do something new, or try to think outside the box. That's the fun part. And you know what? Shoot a picture for yourself, not for anybody else. I know what will sell, but sometimes I never underestimate my audience. My audience can be very, very sophisticated. I'm always surprised how I'll put something really edgy out there or different, and they get it. And it's like, wow, you guys get it. It just makes me feel so good that, we're all on the same page.
On the sort of a technical question, so when you started really taking photography, you were using a digital camera?
My early days, of course, I was always film.
Yeah.
But when I started taking pictures, it's always been digital.
Okay. Do you like that, or do you like the old school original? Do you like to play around with the film, or not really?
My son, the hipster, he sends, you shoot on film, you send it to the lab, and they send it back to you in digital format. And I was like, I mean, unless you're in the dark room or something, there is something, I remember my early years in photography in school, being in the dark room when you see that image comes up as you slip it in the paper, and that's mysterious and wonderful. But I just think there's so much creativity that you can do with something digital, and I don't think it's not a bad thing. Don't be a digital hater.
It's not. I was just curious.
No, I know. If you had but sometimes people tend to.
Yeah, that's funny. Do you There's a ton of other artists in Kailua, you know, photographers and artists. Do you guys know each other? Do you get along? Do you guys like hui and party and?
There's some photographers that I see them and I just bow down to them.
Name some of them. I'm curious.
Dana Edmonds is one of my favorites. He is so knowledgeable and so humble and such a cool cat. I mean, he went to Art Center and. Lately, I was just going through some old stuff, and I did all the Harry and Myra sets for Bank of Hawaii in the old days.
Oh, okay.
And I just looked at some of his proof sheets, and he was the one shooting some of the stuff on my sets that I found some pictures of. He is my guru because he does all the stuff for Maui Jim, but he really takes beautiful pictures, and he does all the Hawaiian Airlines magazines, and Dana Edmonds is my hero in many ways.
But you guys get together and you're friends?
Oh God, there's no.
I
don't think there's any competition between any photographer. Everybody likes to see everybody else's work, and God, you got a good picture. You know, they're like, wow, I'll study it and go, well, maybe we all have our own look,
right.
But good is good, and it just comes out that way. It's really nice.
That's cool. It's awesome to hear.
Yeah,
I like that. I think Hawaii is really special in that way. And I've said this in other podcasts with other people working in different industries, but it's like everyone wants everyone to win.
Yeah.
It's a collaborative, supportive feel, which is wonderful. I don't want to be in a cutthroat city like LA. I'm sure there people work together there too, but you know what I mean?
It's interesting you should mention LA because I work with a lot of New Yorkers in my day, and then I worked with a lot of people from LA. And I gotta admit, I like working with the New Yorkers better.
Really?
You know, yeah. You think they're going to be a little harsher, but
I feel like they're at least direct.
Exactly.
So you know exactly what they're thinking, and they're not.
Exactly. I love the New Yorkers.
Yeah.
We've had some great stuff. Got to work with Herb Ritz, and
wow.
I mean, great photographers. Anthony Edgeworth, and been able to work with some really great photographers. So that. And greatest cameraman of all times, Bill Fraker, who did the chase scene in Bullet, which was like the legendary car chase scene that started the godfather of all car chases. But I've worked with all these people, so what they're going for, and you see their framing, you see how they're doing stuff. So I have to admit, being able to work with the best photographers in the world has helped my career.
So I want to just go into we were talking before this about the unions and the Teamsters, and you mentioned you had some interesting drivers.
I have had some interesting drivers. Ronnie Ching was one of my drivers who was, I guess, written up as is a book called Sunny Skies and Shady Characters by Jim Dooley. And he was a reporter that some of my drivers were some pretty heavy underworld figures, but me not knowing that they were underworld figures, I knew they were heavy guys and I wouldn't want to press them on anything. But in the film industry, a lot of the drivers in the old days used to have some heavy connections. So I was always like, I didn't have a gambling operation. I wasn't selling drugs.
Yeah.
I didn't try to muscle in on their territory. So I had no problem with them. And they treated us really nicely because we really weren't in their world.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
So, yeah.
There are we'll just have to we might just do a separate episode.
Yeah, and I may not say anything because I don't want to get, I don't want my...
Are these people still around?
There's a few of their relatives that might be around.
The story, but there is a movie coming out, and we are completely not associated with this movie. But what's it called?
I don't know that. I don't think they have the name of it. But Martin Scorsese is involved.
Okay.
Dwayne Johnson is involved, and he's going to be playing the part, I think, of Napi Palava, who was part of the early days of the underworld in Hawaii. And gambling was going to come into Hawaii at a certain time. And that's when the syndicate was kind of put together with a lot of the heavies in that day. And I guess they wanted to tie themselves into the Vegas gang when they came to Hawaii. So like I was told that there were at Turtle Bay, they were expecting that to become a casino at one time, and that the ballroom floor has all these electrical outlets in it for slot machines. So those were the heavy days in Hawaii. But I think from what I've been told, and I don't really know, that the people in that world is diversified now. There's different ethnicities who've kind of there's no one big syndicate.
So interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's so interesting, the stories of Hawaii once you start talking to people that have been here since the 50s. It's fun. But anyway.
I wasn't doing much in the 50s. I was basically riding my tricycle around in the 50s.
Richard wasn't involved, people.
I wasn't involved in the 50s.
That's awesome. Okay, so we'll wrap this up. But so Richard Drake on Facebook is the best place to see. It's hundreds, if not thousands of photos, and most of them are posted every day. So if you see something that you like, reach out to him, give him a like. But zenfolio.com is the official website, but there's a ton more photos on his Facebook page. And you are on Instagram as well, right?
Yeah.
Richard Drake.
Yeah. But majority of the people who buy my stuff are on Facebook. I guess all the people from all you hipsters on Instagram,
they're on TikTok, they're on all, it's gone beyond.
Exactly.
But, I would say Richard Drake on Facebook is the best place.
Yeah.
And then if you are in Kailua, you will see Richard riding his bike around most days, just about every day, and usually with a smile on his face.
Because life is good.
It is. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. This was really fun.
Thank you.
Mahalo, everyone. Mahalo to Windward Jewelers for sponsoring this one. And we'll see you soon. Have a great day.
Aloha.